Hello, everyone. It is Monday, and this is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, and joining me today, Rachel Campos-Stuffy, Tammy Bruce, Molly Hemingway, and Todd Pyro. New accusations and explosive charges are flying over the Biden border crisis. Yes, the border is still on fire. And today, at least 3 more buses filled with migrants from Texas just pulled in right here to New York City. So far, Texas has sent more than 1,800 illegal immigrants to New York on over 35 buses. And that sanctuary city is now struggling to find housing for them. Meanwhile, the war of words heats up between Texas Governor Abbott and New York City Mayor Adams. Adams's team is slamming Texas for using wristbands with barcodes, which Adams, others, people in New York are saying is used to track the illegal immigrants, but the Texas governor is saying not so. In fact, he's ripping it as fear-mongering. And a guest on MSNBC is now ratcheting things up even more, calling those who support busing migrants, guess what they picked? They called it racist, just like segregationists. Watch this.
I mean, the conservative estimate is about $80,000 per bus trip. But we know that, racists don't mind paying this money. We saw this with, our parents and grandparents' generations when schools were, forced to integrate and they refused. So they would ship, African Americans to other states to attend college because they didn't want to integrate schools in, say, South Carolina or Virginia or Georgia. So racists, are willing to pay the money and they don't care if taxpayers pay the brunt.
Todd, you'd think they'd come up with something new, but racist is always the word.
Yeah, going back to the playbook. And how is it racist to take sanctuary cities up on their offer to be sanctuary cities? And was it racist when, Joe Biden flew people from the border to Westchester? Westchester, as you all know, is like 20 minutes away. It's not that far away. What's the difference? I don't see the difference.
No, there isn't a difference. Rachel, another false allegation they're leveling is that the Texas governor is forcing people to sign NDAs. In fact, that's not true, they say. Migrants boarding these buses are not signing NDAs. Here's the form they are signing. It reads this. We have a picture of the form. You can see it. The only form that we are told they are signing. It reads, I, blank, fill in your name, agree to be transported by the state of Texas or its designated agency officials to locations outside of Texas, such as D.C. or New York. I agree to hold the state of Texas or its designated agency officials harmless of all liability. And the form goes on. The point I'm making, this is a voluntary choice they are making. No one's being forced onto a bus.
No, and they've interviewed the migrants themselves, and they've said, no one's forcing me on. Thanks for the ride. I wanted to go to New York. My family's there. Here's the other thing, the bracelets that they said, I have seen no one in the Biden administration ever complain about the way the cartels are tracking people and turning them into indentured servants. And by the way, if you cross the border, those who did make the payment and are done with the payments, you see piles of them all over the floor, like these codes. As far as the paperwork, the thing that's interesting to me is I have to fill out more paperwork to get onto an airplane with my identification. Many of these whistleblowers who have come out from, the airports and also from Border Patrol are saying people are getting onto airplanes that you and I are all paying for with no proper ID. Even this paper bothers me, to be honest, only because it says that this person's going to tell us his name. It doesn't prove to me that that person is who they are. We know we have an identification problem with people who come over the border because they're not coming legally. And the legal way to come is the way we know who you are, why you're here, and everything else we should know in order for our own national security.
So you make a really good point about the wristbands, Tammy. The wristbands are apparently just wristbands used in natural disasters. Texas has used them. Other states have adopted them. But you make a good point that there are wristbands that we should be talking about. It's the one Senator Cruz identified on the border that are around the arms of children, of helpless people, adults who cross the border who are victims of human trafficking, and they color code the wristbands based on how much you pay.
Yep.
Those are the wristbands that the left should be focused on if they have even an ounce of compassion.
That's right. And what this, of course, reveals to us is that the left knows this. They've picked up on these things, and they've chosen to attack Americans in the process, American leadership. But we've all known this has been the case. This has been discussed, and they've willingly ignored it. It's not like they were confused or didn't know. And I think also what's fascinating here, the sheet, by the way, the letter, this really does interfere with the ability of groups like the ACLU to sue. on behalf of groups of people. And the ACLU gets a great deal of its money, of course, is when their fees are paid when they win, which is why they sue small towns, little places about various violations, etc. That's how a lot of money is made, of course. So this really interferes with the left's agenda in general to make money and to use the court systems in this framework. So it was a genius move. But also, to your point, Todd, this flying of people overnight, secretly in the middle of the night, that you want to talk about abusive to people, actually not knowing where they were going, put on an airplane by the federal government when in the countries that they're fleeing, that alone is traumatic. When you're being taken somewhere and flown, you don't know where you're going to land. This was an entirely different dynamic. But what they don't want discussed is this brings to light what's happening at the border, which, of course, Kaylee, you didn't know was closed, of course. This kind of ruins that narrative. So this is what they want. They want that conversation. They don't want what we've brought up, what we've discussed as concerned Americans. And so far, so good for the left.
Of course, they don't want to talk about that. Molly, I wanted to say this for you because you're in D.C. all of the time and New York. And here's the description on the forms of the places you can go. I found it interesting. That form that I mentioned that the Washington Examiner got. Washington is the capital of the United States, and it's where members of Congress and the President of the United States are more immediately able to help the needs of immigrants who have entered the country. New York City is designated as a sanctuary city by its city council and is providing shelter and food to those who have entered the country. In essence, these are your own words, libs, so live by them.
These are very accurate descriptions.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating to me that we're even talking about this. We're talking about very small numbers of people. New York is extremely upset about 1,800 people. Washington, D.C. is livid about similar numbers of people. I mean, we're talking about millions of border crossings in a year that Texas has to absorb completely. If they're not absorbing it completely, or other border states, then yes, they are being flown to the middle of the country. And everyone has been totally fine with these things. Nobody has thought about how that puts a burden on people for public health, for public schools, for what's happening in various communities. All of a sudden, when it hits New York and DC, now it's a crisis. But these people, if they really have a problem with it, they should care about the fact that we don't have a functional border on our southern portion of our country, and this is something tens of millions of Americans are deeply concerned about.
Yeah, it's so true. And now that it's in New York, people all of a sudden care about it. Who, by the way, New York, like, great job, Mayor Adams. I know you like party till 2 a.m. I've read in the New York Post. Well, maybe you should focus on this because he wanted to create a midtown shelter for these migrants, but that was supposed to start up 13 days ago. Here we are. There's no shelter at the moment. It's supposed to use 5,000 hotel rooms. DHS admitted it has yet to select and rent any of these. So DHS, Mayor Adams, New York, like, where are you?
What I'm struck by, if you remember back to 9/11, how quickly this city mobilized to help people going through literally the worst thing that our country has ever gone through. Instantaneously. You've had 13 days to deal with this. You've known that this has been happening for a while now. And again, to my earlier point, you touted yourself as a sanctuary city. Well, I don't know if you're going to do that. Maybe have the sanctuary in place to handle these individuals. Yet, we're almost at 2 weeks. This guy's partying and getting upset when you call him out for said partying. What's going on? The fact of the matter is you have incompetence running this city. You've had incompetence running this city for years now. Nothing's improving, even though we thought Mayor Adams was going to come in and clean everything up, whether it's crime, whether it's this situation. This city is a disaster. And if somebody just sort of took some time and thought about a solution, maybe these individuals would have the intake center that was promised weeks ago.
Can I tell you what's really funny is I've seen some Spanish language interviews with some of the people that have come over, and they basically have said, because some of them have been put in shelters, and they're like, this is dangerous. Like, they're saying, this is really dangerous. I'd rather sleep on the streets. And actually, we're chastising the mayor, saying, not only are you not doing a good job of welcoming us, we were brought here, but by the way, we feel bad for American citizens who are hitting hard times, that they have to go to these very dangerous shelters or sleep on the streets. So here these migrants are coming over really dissatisfied with the way New York City is being run.
Yeah. One other element, too, is that there has been some rooms, apparently, in Times Square at a particular hotel for these migrants in the midst of a hotel where there are tourists, but they're segregated, talk about segregation,
Wow.
to one floor. But it's not like they're relegated to the stairs. I mean, this is remarkable. And of course, they want tourists to come back. It's a cluster fark.
Sounds racist.
And I read that some of the migrants have to come through the back door away from where.
Right. Well, what do you know? That's reminiscent of a few things we know, isn't it?
Right. So, yeah, take an inward look, Democrats. Coming.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.